Watching TVC Breakfast, we now take you to security conversations. We take you all the way to the center of unity where Tijesu Adeoye is standing by in our Abuja studio. In Akwana, Tijesu, over to you.
Greetings, Ria. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning once again in the city of Abuja, and I'll take you straight into our conversation this morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to FCT Brief. Nigeria continues to grapple with persistent waves of violent attacks across different regions, raising fresh concerns about the effectiveness of the nation's current security framework. From rural communities to major highways and urban centers, the pattern of insecurity has reignited a critical national conversation. Is Nigeria's security architecture still equipped to respond to evolving threats, or has the moment arrived for a comprehensive rebuild? This morning, we examine the pressures confronting Nigeria's security system, ranging from overstretched conventional forces to intelligence gaps and the growing role of non-state actors. As criminal networks become more sophisticated and local vulnerabilities deepen, questions are being asked about coordination, capacity, and the place of private and community-based security structures in strengthening national safety. And to help us get to the root of these issues, we're joined by Chris Adigwu. He is a security expert, and he will be offering insights into what rebuilding Nigeria's security architecture should look like and how licensed private security practitioners can contribute to a more resilient and responsive security system. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you, and Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
All right, let's talk security now, because this is an issue that borders everyone. There's no form of development, or we can't see any responsive development if our security is not checked in the country. And Nigeria often claims to have credible intelligence before we see attacks that we see ahead. Some community people say, they give intelligence ahead. Even some security agencies claim, they receive intelligence ahead, but it's not being acted on. Now, where is that breakdown occurring? And when we see often this intelligence are not being acted on, who should be held accountable? Is it the security agencies, or who should be held accountable in this regard?
Thank you very much for that question. Let me go straight. Government is saddled with the responsibility of protecting life and properties of her citizens. Mm-hmm. So to answer that question directly, who is responsible? Partly those saddled by the Constitution to protect the citizens. That is the law enforcement agencies.
So the breakdown, where does the breakdown come from? Not acting on credible intelligence. Do we lack capacity?
I wouldn't say, but partly so. But if you observe, we've been reacting. We've not been proactive. So whenever there's an incident, just like what happened in Katsina recently, or even the case of in Niger State, all we have is a marching order on the security agencies to do their job. So you find a situation where they are always reacting to the incident after it has happened. And when, after some time, everywhere goes silence again. And you observe also that most time when we have these occurrences or incidences, for almost like 24 hours, nobody will hear from any of the state actors. There will be this gap. Nobody knows what is happening. I think that is not good for our nation. That is not good for our nation. I don't think we are not capable, but there must be the political will to end this menace.
And speaking about political will, in many of these attacks, local commanders say they don't get clearance to act quickly. Has a centralized command become a liability in acting swiftly when this intelligence is being gotten?
I think there should
and what can be done about it?
There should be better coordination between the law enforcement agency. there should be better coordination. And if you observe also the nature of security challenges we've been having in recent times are basically in the communities. So the challenges we have now is really local. So we as security agents should find ways of also engaging with the locals, even in terms of intelligence gathering. But how much preparedness on the part of the communities has also the government put in teaching them some of the things they need to know, in also passing information across. And you find the insurgents or terrorists, they target the soft, they target the vulnerable communities, areas that are not policed, that even when you make a call, probably to take the police an hour or the army several hours to get to those locations. So what should we do? I keep on, whenever I get such questions, I keep on coming back to my area of concern, which is the private security. I can see Nigeria as of today is still under-policed, but not just under-policed. Even in terms of deployment, we have issues in that regard. Of course, the president has taken a very good step in withdrawing the police from the VIPs, but if you check it, probably roughly about maybe 100,000 or thereabouts, but that is not sufficient enough. We are a population of almost about 220 million Nigerians. So even if we go with the United Nations standard of 1 police to 450 citizens, you'll find a situation, if we compute that, in Nigeria we are doing about almost like 1 to 800 citizens.
Well, the government right now says that forest guards are now trained and have been deployed into the bushes to confront these terrorists. But we know that, these non-state actors are being heavily armed with sophisticated weapons that, modern technology. Now, how well would you say these forest guards are they trained adequately enough? And do we even have the firepower to confront, these insurgents?
I strongly believe that training makes the difference. Like I mentioned earlier, we keep reacting. We are not proactive. Like I mentioned, even in the private security sector, we have enough hands that when you put in much into the training of these men and women who are in the private security, it's like, we're a big reservoir that the government can tap into. Nigerian police are about 370 or thereabouts. Then if you check the calculation, almost like 100 are probably protecting the politicians, the VIPs, and other duties. So let's say about 270 or thereabouts. Now the president has given a go-ahead for recruitment of about 20,000. That is not still enough. That is not still enough. I believe there should be better engagement with the private security sector. I'm not saying that we are all this, but reasonably, especially in the communities.
I hear you, Mr. Adigwu, but if you look at it critically, we keep recruiting, and some of these personnel actually complain about welfare. They complain about inadequate funding. Now, do you think even if government adopts, private security to be able to fund, despite, our security architecture is heavily funded, by the way, but do you think that it's sufficient enough?
In a state of emergency, a lot of steps you take are not normal steps. In times like this, the government should also expedite the reforms in the private security sector, because the nature of challenges we face now are not just the one you go with the fist. These are armed insurgents, armed kidnappers, and the kind of war, if we want to call it war now, it's an asymmetric war we are in. So we can't keep on doing the same thing and expect a different result. The private security companies should, even if it's the less lethal weapons, they are approved to just to help. There's an emergency, for God's sake. There's an emergency. Especially the level of insecurity we face are mainly in the communities. Imagine we have about close to about 4 million private security operatives in Nigeria. If we take out about 1 million, who also understand the basics of security, and give them adequate training, and take them to these vulnerable areas, I think it will go a long way. Because if you put all the state actors together, the army, the navy, the police, and whatever, but they are not still up to the number of those in the private security space. And because they are not just there, they are there as a business, but also adding value. It's an essential service. So government should engage the private security practitioners.
All right. All right.
Yes.
We'll come back to that because we need to take this quick commercial break now. Don't go anywhere. We still have more for you on the program. Grab your coffee. We'll be right back.
Politics and accountability on fireworks. No seat is too high, no question too hard. If they hold an office, they are on the hot seat. If they have power, they answer to the people and answer the hard questions.
Only strong men lead, not weak men who don't have knowledge, who don't have capacity, who don't have access.
This is not just talk. This is fireworks.
Corruption started corruption in when you cannot send your animal to where they train police officers.
No filters, no favoritism, no fear, no holds back, unbiased, unafraid, unfiltered.
Why should people elected into office and are being funded by the treasury of the state, and then their salary and allowances will be treated in secrecy?
Fireworks, only on TVC News.
TVC News, first with Burgundy.
We're glad to have you back. Now we'll continue our conversation on security. Right now, the U.S. has offered to help Nigeria, and Nigeria has openly, received this help, and we're seeing some series of attacks happening in some states in the country. Now, how well has this improved our security situation? Has it become better, or has it made it worse? Because we now see more the ripple effects in other states.
Oh. We are yet to see the full result of our collaboration with the U.S. And I believe the state actors have the capacity, they have the personnel. I think the bombing of Sokoto some couple of weeks ago, how it has the ripple. But in the last couple of days, you saw what happened in Katsina. You heard what happened in Katsina and Niger. As if these guys are gaining momentum. So it's high time we also look inward. Our challenge is local, and it must be addressed. It must be addressed locally.
How so?
How soon? Like I mentioned earlier, the responsibility of protecting life and property of citizens is the responsibility of the state. Mm-hmm. And I believe the state is taking that step already. In our own space, we are making ourselves available We are doing our own bit, working from inside out, letting government know we have these capabilities. We can do so much in community protection and security. Relying on external powers, it can go a long way in terms of supply of equipment and whatever to help us, intelligence, equipment, technology. We can that can also go a long way, but we are yet to see, because we expected that after the Christmas Eve or whatever bombing, that probably would have expected some level of
peace.
Yes, but like I mentioned earlier, it's an asymmetric war we are in.
So in the case that private security is being engaged, how do you guard against abuse? Because one issue that we seem to deal with is an overuse or abuse of power. Yeah. Now, how do you guard against that?
Like in every space, training makes the difference. When you say arming the private security, doesn't mean every registered private security company will be armed. The DSS has a lot of role to play there. Training makes the difference between an American Army and a Navy SEAL in the same US. Training makes the difference between a regular Nigerian policeman and a MOPO, we call them, mobile policemen. When the private security operatives are also trained to fill this gap, there's a gap, we must all agree. That will make the difference. There won't be need for abuse. You don't just give weapon to someone who is not matured enough to carry weapons. So there must be requirements. Doesn't mean there will be a kind of open approval to, no. That's not what we are asking for. There must be control.
In the case that, private security is being engaged, what would be your modus operandi? How would you operate? Would you go into the forest, or are we going to see you within the states, or what would be your method of operation?
Security is a sensitive work. We are not state actors. Private security practitioners are in there offering essential services, but they are also there for business. We can't just go into the forest and start combing the forest looking for kidnappers. You must have assigned roles. You must have assigned roles. But I believe, like I mentioned earlier, this is the opportunity time, we will do well, not just in the urban area, in the communities. If you check, recently, all we hear is communities, vulnerable communities. There's a lot we can do in that area, but we cannot operate outside government because we are in this security space. So that's why there's need for collaboration. There's need for realignment. There's need for us to begin to see value in the private security space other than what we have with the state actors.
But doesn't that bring us to the same point? Because if you say private security should be engaged, and then security agencies keep recruiting on a daily basis, and yet we don't see an improvement. They are not properly being funded. They lack basic weapons to confront these challenges. Doesn't that bring us back to the same level and compounding the problem?
We are facing a challenge in the country. Insecurity is on the top burner. The government should also ensure they fund the paramilitary agencies. And those we've been using to also fund the police. also find ways to also give support to the private security companies. There must be some level of adjustment, and you must spend to achieve this. This war is not a cheap war. It's a war. I call it war now. It's a war. That the government must also back up with the political will. Sending hunters, whatever. You find the same people we call hunters and whatever. They are the same group of people we also employ in the private security space. So we can do it. The government can do better. The government can do better. Because when it happens in Niger, we react. When it happens in somewhere in Delta, we react. So we'll be as if we are just running after these characters. If it's given the seriousness that it demands, I believe in 2-3 months, we'll see much difference. We're also entering a period where even the police will be so busy with a lot of things. The elections are coming. It's not the time we'll start doing certain things. The time is now. The time is now.
All right.
Yes.
We keep, or President Tinubu recently reshuffled, the security chiefs, and we keep hearing him giving, marching orders to these men to ensure that they end the insecurity in the country. It's becoming a recurring statement with little to no change. Would you say this is just mere lip service, or there's something fundamentally wrong in the security architecture of the country?
When I walked into the studio this morning, nobody forced you onto your seat. You were already seated. Mm-hmm. You are doing your job. The producer walked up to me at the waiting room, and we had a chat. I walked in here. The camera lady is doing her job. They don't need to coerce you to do your job. When people are now forced to do their job or given order to do their job, that means they are failing in their responsibility.
Mm-hmm. So would you say this current security chiefs have failed in their responsibility so far?
The challenge in Nigeria is a systemic one. So it makes it so difficult for you to just say this is the person that has it. It's a systemic problem. You find schools, and the problem in Nigeria is not even the policies. The national security strategy documents are there. The one on anti-terrorism strategy, those documents, they are all there. But are we following up with these recommendations? We keep on setting up one committee, one task force or the other, but the doing is not there. So that's why I say we must have the political will to fight this. It's a war. I'm always finding it difficult to use the word war, but it's a war. Well, it's an asymmetric war.
And earlier you mentioned that, the protection of citizens is the duty of the states. How would you say in recent times we hear some governors saying they are incapacitated to confront this challenge. They have to resort to, confronting the central command before they can even get some sort of action in their state. Do you think that should change? The governors should have more power to command the security architecture in their state?
I term that as those are just excuses. Those are just excuses. The states have collected more money in this dispensation more than any other. But you don't need to take permission to protect your citizens. They are security votes. You don't take permission to collaborate or work with the security agencies within your state to protect your citizens. The local government is there. They also have responsibility. These are not just issues of people just collecting FAC allocation every other time and whatever. There's work to be done. There's work to be done. Lives are being lost on a daily basis, and it doesn't mean anything to anybody. And I think one way or the other, do you know the way they do it in the US? When there's an incident, you'll find the what's it called? The CIA, the FBI, all those security, they will all stand and address the press. I think it's high time, whenever there is an incident, it may be in Niger, the governor and the heads of all the security agencies will address the press. And when they keep on addressing press every other day on a matter, if they are not doing well, they should tell themselves they are not doing well. You can't be giving excuse every other week, because whenever there's an incident, you need to tell the people. So if you come and tell them, oh, this is what we have done to stop this, and it happens again, nobody would ask you to resign.
Well, with all the efforts being made in trying to tackle this insecurity, some have yielded little to no results. And now there are growing calls of allowing people to protect themselves, to own weapons to defend themselves. Do you think that is something that we should begin to consider?
It has its own pros and cons. And the cons are much. That will probably take us back to Thomas Hobbes' state of nature. Survival of the fittest. No, I don't think that's what the area we should go. Even in the developed world where they allow them to buy guns, we know the challenges that come with it. We can work with our existing structures, accept where we are not getting it right, make improvements, take steps that will mitigate incidences like we are experiencing now. I strongly believe that allowing everybody to bear arms in a developing world as the dangers are more. We can bring out the best from our current structures, security structures.
And I'm sure that Nigerians really look forward to the best coming out from our existing structures and also those that might be adopted later. We must thank you so much, Mr. Chris Adigwu, for your contributions on our program this morning. It's a delight speaking with you always.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay.
That's where we'll leave our conversation this morning. We're glad you could be a part of it. Now we'll hand you over to Lagos, where Ria and the rest of the team are standing by to continue with the rest of the show.
All right. Thank you so much, Tijesu. Great conversation from Abuja. Mongode. Thank you.